Welcome to ValorCraft Workshop. My name is Will, and this is my Monday morning live, my Monday morning brief. Just an opportunity for me to hop online once a week, beginning of the week, and share some stuff about my life and the shop, studio, and work I'm doing here and where I'm going, what I'm thinking about these days. If you're new here, the normal battle rhythm is to think about stuff through the week. I write to Substack on Fridays. I write Thursday night typically, publish it on Friday, and then think about that topic a little bit over the weekend. And then Monday morning, go live to share some thoughts about it or use that as a jumping off point for some other things going on. In this case, this week, this is totally fresh and new because I've been gone for 2 weeks. I'm going through my postpartum vacation depression. My whole family is. We spent 11 days in Alaska. You might go, why do you go on spring break from Arizona to Alaska? I had lived there for a few years. My wife wanted to see the Northern Lights, wanted to go at Christmas, which I thought was a really bad idea because it was going to be way too cold. As it turns out, it was pretty darn cold when we went anyway. But we did get to see the Northern Lights, and that was really awesome. And they got to experience some other things there as well with me. Successful trip, very enjoyable. And then we increased, I think, about 120 degrees when we returned. We went from -20 to 100. And so that was a little bit of shock. But with that warm weather also brought a great deal of depression of ending our vacation. And reality set in today. My son went back to school, and as did my wife, she teaches. So, and I'm back in the shop, and all those same projects I left unfinished before I left, they sit here and await my attention. Not great. So I'm whining and crying about being back from vacation, wishing I was on vacation again. So leave that from there. What is ValorCraft Workshop? If you're new here, or if you're not new here, it may seem new because every time I come on, I tweak my philosophy on this ValorCraft Workshop each time, probably. The original intention was for this to be my post-retirement hobby space. But with all my hobbies, I used to be a beekeeper. That was a good example of one. I tried to make it enough of a business to where it pays for the hobby. That was my hope here as well. And I struggled for a couple of years between, is this a hobby? Is this a business? And every time I'd start to get that taste of a business, I'd start running down business lane. And then I'd start thinking, I didn't want to start a business. I wanted to have a hobby that I could potentially make some things that people would want to buy, but I didn't want to make them for the sole purpose of someone buying them. I wanted to make them because I enjoyed making them and then try to find buyers or gift receivers, which tends to be the case much of the time, whichever way. I know if I was trying to make this a really successful business, I'm going about it all the wrong ways. If I'm trying to make it a successful hobby, I'm also going about it the wrong way because I'm taking on too much business, not leading me the way I want to go. So that's been my big struggle, is this hobby business obligation that comes in with saying yes to too many things, of things I can do for hire, and then versus the freedom of just being able to use the space for what I would like to use it for. And I won't beat the dead horse on that. Like, more will be revealed, or look at some of the old videos and you'll understand a little bit more about me and what I'm doing here. But my main philosophy within ValorCraft Workshop is head, hands, and heart. It's the thinking about stuff. It's the doing things, making things. And the heart is just the feeling and meaning behind those things that I think about and that I make. So that's the framework that I work within on all the stuff I do here. And it makes it a little bit more about me and my mind and not as much about the space itself, because like for the last 2 weeks, I've been away. I've been in Alaska for weeks. Prior to that, I was planning that trip, which is also a form of making that I discovered I really enjoy. Didn't really enjoy the price tag that went along with it, which brings up other issues of like, all right, what do I do with this space if it's not making money and all these things? I'd rather travel. I always think about these things of, you can do anything, can't do everything. We're limited resources of time, money, just other obligations that limit ourselves of how much we can do. You can pretty much choose to do anything you want, but again, there are constraints, there are realities in place of the cost of things and time and money and other resources and other people's schedules and all that. So that's the reality. One day I would really like to be free to travel wherever, whenever, and sit in business class at the same time. And just not quite there yet, but I'm developing the plan to get there. I'm jumping around a little bit. So let me get back on topic so this doesn't run too long. It's already not Monday morning anymore. It is Monday afternoon in Arizona, sunny Arizona. I don't think we've surpassed 100 degrees today, which is nice. My air conditioning bill will appreciate that. So I got a clipboard with a few pages of notes just to keep me on track a little bit. I'm not going to read verbatim off of it, but it gives me some jumping off points to think about. In some previous Monday morning lives, I talked about February and March being subtraction months, or the first half of March. So about 6 weeks of subtraction. And it all stemmed off this phrase a former soldier of mine introduced me to called addition by subtraction. Basically, he was saying he was leaving the unit. So by that subtraction, the unit would thrive in his absence. Self-deprecating humor was his strong point, and I'm approaching it a little bit humorously the way he did, but taking it a little bit further of thinking of like a sculptor of you get your final model, your final sculpture from removing material from a block of wood or a block of marble or whatever it is. Or in the case when we were in Alaska, just to make myself depressed again, we went to the ice festival, the World Ice Championships, I forget what it's called. And they literally had giant blocks of ice that they used a subtractive method to reveal some beautiful model from it. So that's my addition by subtraction. You get the added benefit of the end product from subtracting things out. So that's one way of talking about it. The other one is I've got a ton of tools. I had a fire in my workshop about 7, 8, maybe 9 years ago now. I think we're coming on 9 years this fall, and lost a lot of stuff in that fire, not just physical. It is a trauma to have a fire. Look at me getting all vulnerable on a Monday. It is a trauma. It takes a lot from you, and probably would have been better if I just trashed everything. But my mind's always, oh, I could clean that up and fix it and still use it or sell it or whatever. So I still have a good number of things, great number of reminders in this shop of the one that burnt down. And so some of that subtraction is cleaning up these things. I'm a percussionist as well. So I had a couple drum sets upstairs. The drum sets, they're gone. But the cymbals, they're metal and they got covered with soot, but it's like, hey, I can clean those guys off. And so I got bags of cymbals to clean up. So a lot of these things I want to clean up and get out of the shop, but even newer tools or other tools I've had that did survive the fire without any damage, things I'm not using, trying to get it out of here. I've became an avid camera collector at one point, film cameras, but the reality is you can shoot one camera at a time. So I probably don't need 3 or 4 dozen film cameras. Neat little collection, probably look nice on display somewhere if I had somewhere to display them, but I don't need expensive paperweights to sit around. So those things I want to sell. But then a lot of digital camera gear too. I always like buying the latest, greatest, everything. But again, I can shoot one at a time. And when I'm traveling, I prefer something small and versatile. And most of the time I'm shooting pictures with my phone. That's just the reality. It's the easiest one to grab. Although I've got some other small cameras and I may be picking up one other one before the summer trip. I digress. But before I do any of that, I am selling. I probably got $5,000-$6,000 of camera gear that I'm going to sell and get rid of before we leave end of May. I already went down that rabbit hole. February, March is supposed to be subtraction month, and it turned out not to be. Everything's pretty much the same of how I left it. The third piece of the addition by subtraction is just general cleanup. So there's what did I say first? Removing the things that aren't the end product to reveal the end product. That's a little bit more metaphorical and hoity-toity head stuff. Second is sell some stuff. Third is just clean up and get rid of. And I did get rid of a few. You might see the boxes I used to have underneath the flag behind me on top of the CNC, which I would like to use again. A lot of those are gone. And my neighbors in this warehouse complex, I think they do some salvage, eBaying of things or online auction of things. And so they're constantly needing boxes, and I'm constantly emptying boxes in here. I hate throwing things away, but it's awesome, like getting boxes of all sizes. So I give them to them. So that helped me. I gained some additional space by taking stuff out of the space. So that's going to happen more and more. I'm looking over here and you can't see it, but I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 maybe moving boxes stacked up like these boxes up right there. Like those boxes up there, they're over there and they're empty, but they're awesome boxes I got when I moved from Korea. So I'll probably break them down, store them somewhere because they will be good storage for other stuff as I start to clear stuff out. But right now they're just taking up space in a new space. So I think that's my point overall is, did I subtract? I don't think I subtracted as much, a little bit, but not as much as I rearranged. So I moved boxes with stuff in them over there and consolidated some of that stuff in different boxes, emptied some of the boxes, put them here, took some other empty boxes, gave them to the guys next door. But for the most part, I guess it's a little bit more rearranging and not a whole lot of subtraction. Long story long. So here we are, March 23rd, almost like Chutes and Ladders. I'm back at start. Still looks about the same. So either I failed or I misunderstood what subtraction meant. And I understood what subtraction meant, but I'll get into this a little bit more later too. It's just, I take on too many things. So that becomes a problem. So my quick assessment of where things are at right now, having just got back from vacation, got the printers up and running again, had a few duck orders, and so they're on there, and a few other things that I'm printing out on the 3D printers. So that's all running. I got the duck orders packed up and they're ready to ship. So that's off my shoulders right now. The projects for the Pilates studio, man, I've been talking about this since this started in September, somewhere like that. I got the trim sitting on a miter saw right over there. And so I'm trimming out a bunch of mirrors and her studio, the bathroom, floorboard trim, painting the tile walls. She's got a plumber now doing some sink work, but I'll do the finish work on it after the plumber does the plumbing. And when I think about it all as a whole, man, it's overwhelming, really. And it's contractor work. I shouldn't have taken it, kind of a little bit of scope creep, not really scope creep, ability creep, things I can do, but not at all things that are aligned with my purpose in this shop or within the ValorCraft ecosphere. I don't want to be a contractor, but because of the client and because of my own inability to say no, no doesn't mean I can't do it. No means I maybe still can do it, but this isn't what I do. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. This is sort of something I've talked about a lot. So the Pilates project's not done yet, but the plan going forward this week is I'm taking the trim work piece by piece. I'm doing a mirror at a time. And the bathroom I'll tackle first, get these things knocked out. So I'm gonna do the bathroom trim and the painting this week. And then I'm gonna hit one mirror at a time. And we're talking, when I say a mirror, I'm not talking like 10 by 16. I'm talking like 16 feet wide by 6 feet tall. And one of them's 22 feet wide. So varying sizes within that. Whole walls being covered are trimmed out. And of course, they're all different distances off the wall. And so there's some challenges with each of them of how I attach the trim and what I need to build in support of it. Long story longer. All right. So Pilates project's not done yet, but there's a plan. And then the signage can be done the week after that. All right. Shop, not clean. Setting aside an hour at the end of each day, which maybe as soon as I'm off this live stream, that'll be time to do that. Setting aside an hour each day to at least get one garbage can out the door every day, filling it up, getting things organized, prepared to sell, or the camera equipment that I'm selling to a company that assesses and purchases digital cameras, getting all that together for them to get those out the door. Sale, they've been on hold a little bit because I've had the shops shut down for the last 2 weeks while I've been gone. The ducks have started selling again, but the other ones usually take a little bit of time to get going again. And life in general is just pretty full. So we've got stuff going on at the house. I think I mentioned before we had a little plumbing issue in the bathroom. I'm just waiting on insurance and the contractor to work the final little bits out. They're quibbling over a couple $100 at this point. Hope to have that done so I didn't have to spend my time at the house babysitting them while they do the work and get that done, put it to bed, be done. All right. So bottom line, I didn't subtract much at all. I rearranged. So I don't think this is a time problem. I end up with about 6 hours a day in the shop. I have a yes problem, and I think I mentioned that a moment ago. I say yes to, if I can do it, I say yes. And I've known this about myself since I was in high school, that I add stuff. I'm not good at subtracting. I add until it hits a breaking point. It causes anxiety and just overwhelmment all around. But it's not just this one project that I took on. It's kind of everything. So there is a scaling back that needs to happen over the next several months. If I stay in this space, it's still scaling back and getting laser focused on what I'm doing here. And if it's moving out of this space, then it's reassessing my direction and everything I'm doing, because you can't travel and spend time in your artist studio, significant time, or thinking of it as a business. I'm trying to create businesses within this that I can turn on and off. So I want to move into some digital products as well, things I can design, sell plans for, or other digital things, so that I can, I spend 2 months of the year out of the country, and so something I can keep, so where I can keep the lights on in the business, selling that. And then when I come back, I can turn my ducks back on or whatever else I'm doing. So I keep saying yes to all these different versions of myself. And that's my issue, not so much time and getting a focus on that. I was listening to a Tim Ferriss podcast last week or during the flight to Alaska. And this one was about simplifying your life in 2026. And there's a bunch of clips from different people he has interviewed. It was mostly them talking, and all with the same question of what tools or what techniques do you use to simplify things for yourself. And I took a lot of notes. I'm not going to go deep into this right now. It hit me though. This isn't a productivity issue. It's a commitment issue, and it's overcommitting to the wrong things, not committing enough to the right things, and making too many things my centers of the universe, or centers of my universe, or my centers of gravity, right? And the reality is, I'm still thinking through this, and that's part of the purpose of this Monday Morning Live also, is thinking out loud, sharing my thoughts, and gaining some feedback from the viewers, which the viewers right now are nobody. We're pretty safe right now. I'm getting any feedback. I used to think you could have your family center of the universe, your work center of the universe, your personal life / hobbies / like to go to the gym, whatever those things that you do as a person aside from the time you spend with your family. So you can have these 3 centers of work, home, and family, or however you want to talk those other 2 things. And there'll be overlap in some things. If I like going to the gym, my family goes to the gym too. So that's a family and a personal thing, right? But if I'm playing hockey, that's a me thing. But the overlap is the same time, like that I would spend with my family, that I'm doing there, or the time I spend in this studio is really when they're at school. I work it out that way. So I kind of get a twofer. I can use that time to feed my soul here when I'm feeding my soul, and I'm not overwhelmed with other stuff, while not taking away from my family time with them. So when I do other things, I'm playing a community band. That's a thing that feeds my soul, but again, it takes away from time with my family also, which can be a healthy thing too. I think everyone should have their own interests as well as those combined interests too, but that's not what I'm getting into right now. I think my realization is you really have to have one center of gravity, and all those other things are in orbit around it. If you've got 3 or 4 or 5 or 10, I probably had 20 centers of gravity, and there are things that are in those orbits, they are going to collide. There's going to be overlap but it's not always going to be positive overlap. Sometimes it's going to be, oh no, we're on a collision course for that other thing, because I decided to make the duck business, my 3D printing business, one center of gravity, and the laser business a center of gravity, and woodworking a center of gravity, and then this handyman contract work, another center of gravity. And so it's all these different gravitational pulls in different directions. And then you layer in their family, community band, playing hockey on for a year and a half now. Anyway, just getting pulled in too many directions does not work. So in the universe, it can be one sun, right? Everything in our universe, we are revolving around the sun and all these different planets, which magically, though I don't think they're scheduled to run into each other during my lifetime. So I'm not going to overthink it, worry about too much. Hopefully not in any of my family's lifetimes. For the most part, they're all operating on their own orbits. They're all rotating at their different speeds. I'm not a physicist or astronomer, but I think I'm getting this generally okay. But as they move around the one sun, that one center of gravity, they're staying on their courses, their paths, doing their own thing, not interfering with others. Occasionally, you can see one from another. Like we can see Jupiter in the sky sometimes, Mars, Venus, when the sky is clear. And on occasion, they all get in a row, or they eclipse, one eclipses another, or within each of our planets that are orbiting the sun, sometimes we've got things orbiting our planet. So we've got one moon. Other planets have more than one moon, maybe. I don't know. One planet, Saturn's got rings, right? And so that's a thought on centers of gravity. There can really only be one. So I've been building this life, and somewhat embarrassing that I've been doing this for 2.5 years now. I retired 2.5 years ago, been building this space. Started with one plan, moves, and I'm not gonna regurgitate the same story over and over, but it's taken different directions. It gets distracted the minute, goes one way, goes another way, keeps adding, it needs to pause and subtract at some point. And so I think I've been building with too many centers of gravity, too many suns, the ducts, laser engraved coasters, the contract work, the do-it-yourself DIY handyman stuff, creating content, family obligations, community band, hockey, other new ideas I come up with, and then I pause and say, slow down, Tiger, let's finish some of these other projects first before we start new ones. And everything's been fighting for the center of gravity position. Everyone wants that pole position, right? And then that's why everything feels so heavy and it's weighing me down, because it's not that I need to get rid of the things. I just need to put them on the right orbit around that one central sun, that one central star, the North Star center of gravity. So what's the decision here? ValorCraft Workshop is my center of gravity. And that's not saying this space, I've talked about this before. I am ValorCraft Workshop. What happens in this thick skull of mine? That's the workshop. That's the work in progress, work in process. Either way, it is progressing and it's a process. But that's where the work's being done, is in my head, whether it's in this space, whether I'm in Turkey during the summer, or other travel that we do, or in Alaska for 2 weeks, creating content there. Ultimately, what's transportable is making Monday morning lives, making other content. That's transportable. It doesn't have to be in the shop. It could be in my backyard by the pool. It can be in Alaska. It can be in Turkey. It can be wherever we happen to go. Right now, the vehicle, or at this moment, is this physical space that I call a workshop. But I'm having thoughts on that too. Yeah. So I am ValorCraft Workshop. So what this means is this is putting me back in the center again. This is putting ValorCraft back in the center again. This is where it started. And I just need some gentle nudging now and then to remind myself of where I started with this and where I intended to take it, and try to get a little bit back toward that with a few tweaks. So within my orbit model, everything else doesn't just go away, but it has to be in an orbit. And so those different orbits can be like What the Duck Toy Company, and it can be ValorCraft.us, my site that's mostly laser engraving. There's a few other things in there too, but I guess I would say it centers around laser engraving and a military first responder gift type audience. Coasters and ammo can gift sets, laser engraved whiskey glasses, things like that. So those are two orbits, those two shops. I have another Etsy shop, which is one of those, what's that far out planet? Pluto? It's not even a planet anymore, right? But it's in an orbit. It's out there a ways. So I have another one called Arpeggio Design, which is really intended to be things I make in the shop because I want to make them. And then I want to find an audience for them. So either I have a family member or a friend that I'm gifting it to, or it goes up in Arpeggio Design for the masses if anyone wants to buy. Things like pens and cutting boards and things like that I'm putting out there. So those are three orbits. Of course, then community band, that's another planet in orbit. Just home life in general, that's one of those planets that's closest to the sun, right? That's one of those ones I have touch points with every single day. Home life versus family life, which there's a big overlap there. So that's another close orbiting planet is the family. And then the moons around that are things like travel and just whatever we do around town when we're here, things like that. Maybe I'll build a big mobile and show my orbiting model at some point, figure a way to graphically depict all this. The contractor work is a temporary orbit, and then it's going to be gone, and that'll be like Pluto. It was a planet, now it's not. We'll kick it out the door when this project is done. New ideas, they have to earn their spaces now. So I think if I keep this model of me at the center of this universe and any new idea becomes a planet that gets put into orbit, if I pause and think about it that way, it makes it much easier to go, all right, is this something that goes into orbit around one of the other planets? Or is it a planet of its own? Or is it an asteroid that's like barreling in fast and about to hit one of us? And probably the best idea is to stop it before it comes on. If something tries to become a new center of the universe, it absolutely has to go. So I think reframing all of this in this light of ValorCraft Workshop at the center of this universe, ValorCraft Workshop is me, life, family, home, the duck company, ValorCraft, the shop, Arpeggio Design. These are all separate planets that are on their own orbits, different distances away from the sun. Some can get around it in a day. Some take weeks. Some take months. Some eventually no longer are planets anymore, become non-planets, and eventually disappear. When I think of it this way, it makes it much easier to say no to things, to new ideas. At least I have to have a little galaxy conference before I let a new one in, like before we give something planetary status or even status as a moon around one of the other planets. We have to assess it through that framework, the orbit model, we will call it. So definitely if something's trying to become a new center of the universe, F that, it's out of there. It's a straight up no. So I've had too many things trying to occupy that same space. And when that happens, collision is inevitable. So instead of trying to eliminate everything, I'm just trying to put things in orbit around that one center and then just watch and observe, see what moves closer to the center, see what moves further out in orbit. And that's going to help determine what things I do now that eventually just go. Like the contractor work is, it's spinning out of control right now, but I'm going to get it done really soon. And then that's no longer a planet. That's out of there. Anything new coming in, it has to go through the process of determining whether or not it gets allowed in or not. And so we'll see what comes close and we'll see what drifts away. All right, so here's my reframe of my subtraction model. Like the orbit model, it's not about getting rid of everything, but it's also not just rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic and still sitting in the same pile of boxes, just in a different order or in different organization. So it's deciding what is central, prioritizing what's important, letting everything else fall into orbit around it. You know, I'll be honest, I've been struggling. Here's my other little tearful moment. I watch a lot of YouTubers that are like hey, I run a 3D printing business. Watch what I do, and I'll give you some tips and tricks. And here's what I'm printing. People like watching those videos. I like watching those videos. And sometimes I think that's what this channel wanted to be, but that's not what I want it to be, or that's not what I'm really making it. I think I've struggled a lot with, I can put it in terms of the shop, but as I said a little bit earlier, ValorCraft Workshop is me. And when I said that out loud last night or the night before to myself, talking to myself out loud, it started to hit me where it's an identity issue. And I felt a bit rudderless. I retired 2.5 years ago, and I know I'm not the only veteran out there who struggles with this. I spent 32 years in the Army. And you don't have to think too much about identity and mission and purpose because it's built in, it's baked into the cookie, right? It's handed to you. And when you're in a command position or even staff positions at certain levels, as I was for the last more than 2 decades of my 3 decades plus of service, it's handed to you. This is our mission and purpose, and it's your job now to take this group of soldiers and move out and accomplish this mission. And man, I operate well in that structure. Like, I don't have to think about identity. I just need to, as a musician and band leader, it was more of how do I take our skills and then present that mission to the public to uphold our part of the Army's mission. Yeah, easy for me to do. It's marketing, it's sales, and it's fine. Easy to do because it's someone else's product that they hand to me and here's the features of it and now go sell it. I can do that. But when it's a blank slate, now it's okay. I'm no longer called by this rank, or I'm no longer commander of this unit or advisor to this officer or whoever doing this mission or that mission or serving this purpose or doing this analysis. When it's a blank slate and I can do whatever I want, it's easy to get distracted by things. It's easy to run down some funny trails, rabbit trails, and the whole time being lost. Like I said, I felt like a rudderless ship for a long time. And that's all this YouTube and thinking out loud on video like this, and doing these lives, is really to connect with that veteran audience, specifically the veterans who are makers like me, artists, crafts people. And I've got some Facebook groups too, where I have discussions with some veterans that are in this space as well. It's a slow grow on its little side orbit to this channel because I know I'm not the only guy experiencing this. I admire those that I've seen retire and they're out there doing new things and they seem to pick up from day one of retirement and off they go. I was concerned retiring because I've also seen people that struggle way worse than I am who passed away in the first year or two after they left the Army because that stress, sometimes positive stress, but they were in a pressure cooker for 32 years and they're used to operating under that much stress all the time and they didn't have a plan when they got out. So cool, maybe that's my bonus is I planned for adding extra stress to myself when I got out, but now I want to ease it back. But I've seen people fall into really bad health or even die not long after they retired from the military, just because they couldn't take that lack of stress. I think is a lot of it. They didn't have direction and it just took a toll on their bodies or their minds. When that structure goes away or when you leave that structure, now it's on you to rebuild it. And I've got notes in different places that talks about like my little lines of effort as I retire, go build that network. Like you got to build your new team as you get out. And you can see my team. I don't have a team in this shop, in this studio. So it's a little bit different for me here. So the team is anyone who watches, which is currently nobody still, but maybe you'll watch it on the replay when I abridge this, when I trim it down later. So building that team, I think a lot of veterans struggle with this. And anyway, we just don't always talk about it. So I want to take a moment to talk about that and address that. Hey, if you're like me, please comment, reach out. I would love to talk to you or listen to you talk if you're struggling. I think we could definitely help each other think through these things. So that's my community invite to you. If this is you, I'll drop a link in the notes for this live stream and when I abridge it for my Facebook groups. Got one called ValorCraft Workshop, which is open to anybody. And then there's another one called ValorCraft Guild, which is a little bit more specifically to makers, artists, but the other one's open to anyone. The Guild clamped down a little bit, but it's also all people I know from the outside already, and I've asked them to invite others that they know. But I'll put links for those notes if you're interested in checking those out. So, if what I've described is you, definitely reach out. If you're trying to figure out what your next chapter looks like, reach out. That'd be great. I would love to talk. You're not alone. I'm happy to talk about it. I'm happy to listen. I talk a lot right now. How long have I talked? I've talked for 45 minutes so far, and which is about twice as long as I intend to do on these. But I can listen as well. My background is I do have a master's in psychology and a master's in counseling. And that's not the career path I took, but it came in very handy as a commander. Still comes in handy for some self-assessments now, but just talking with others as well. So I said ValorCraft Workshop is my center of gravity. I'm on the last page, everybody. That is true. But ValorCraft Workshop isn't just me. I'm a veteran, I'm a maker, I'm a father, husband, grandfather, son, lots of different things. Shitty hockey player who hasn't played hockey in a year and a half. All these different aspects of who I am, right? But a lot of you share those same aspects. A lot of you are veterans. And if you're a veteran, you're also somebody's son or daughter, potentially someone's spouse, potentially someone's parent, someone's grandparent, someone's friend. All these, you'll see a lot of overlap between what I do and what you do or what you're interested in potentially doing. So in those areas of overlap, I think we can find a lot of common ground and a lot of stuff to share. So that's my invite out to the community again. So yeah, ValorCraft Workshop is me, but it's also you. Anyone who finds that overlap in this world, I would love to hear from you. So here's my short-term plan. I mentioned a little bit of this already, but I'm going to finish this Pilates work. I always ascribe to this phrase, how do you eat an elephant? Small bites, chew carefully. And I think when I look at the entirety of the projects with the Pilates studio, it's just overwhelming when I look at the entire thing. But if I go mirror by mirror with the trim, I go bathroom trim, I do bathroom painting, bathroom sink finishing work. It'll get done in the next few weeks. And then I got signs I got to do too. That'll be quick because that's right here. And that'll be design work and more enjoyable than contractor work. No hit on contractors. Bless you guys for what you do. Just a different style of making that is not an orbit I want to have, or not something I want to have in my orbit. Yeah, what do I mean? I don't want it orbiting around me. Go away. So finishing that. And then no more contractor work. That's done. Like I've mentioned this so many times. Like, you say contractor one more time. Yes, that's all I'll say of it, because I won't be saying it again after that. That's not part of my identity. Selling the unused gear, equipment, camera equipment, woodworking equipment, either cleaning it up and selling it if it's worth that, or selling it as is if it's not worth my time to clean it up to get extra money from it. Get those out the door. I'm going to launch a separate coaster site so sometimes I get orders for like 100 coasters or more. And when I sell those through Etsy, they take such a big cut. I hate having them involved with it. So I want to make a website that the only thing it sells is bulk slate coasters. It would have a catchy name like bulk slate. Can you say it? bulkslatecoasters.com. Oh, I happen to own that URL. Perfect. That's where I'll put it. But I want to get that up here in the next couple of weeks. Start selling the bulk orders of, say, 50 or more through that site so that I can test the concept, see that it works. I leave for Turkey at the end of May. So I'm going to have that done beginning of April. So I've got a couple months to test that out before I shut it off for the summer while I'm gone. I'm saying these things out loud, recording them, because it helps me think through these things out loud, helps me stay accountable to, hey, I told everybody this is what I'm going to do. So there we go. I want to create a few digital products. I have them in mind already. There's one ornament I make on the laser engraver that I designed myself that I use for the Army-Navy football game every year. I sell the actual ornament, but I want to try selling the digital file so others can make it as well. This way I only make a few bucks on it when I make it myself, when you consider time and everything else. If I can sell it for a couple dollars without doing anything at all, any extra work other than making the listing, I can sell the digital file and make the same $2, $3, whatever. So that's one of the digital products. And the other one is going to be a little frame like for Fuji Instax, like old Polaroid type in a couple different sizes. One has an ornament, one has a kind of make it look like an old iPod player or a streaming media player with a photo in it where you can change the name of the song on it. Anyway, I've seen a few out there. I want to improve upon that design, make it my own to where you can slip a picture in and out in ease and sell that file and see where that goes. So those are the digital products I'm going to work on, because what I would really love to do is have that first sale with the digital product, see that it works. So then when I'm in Turkey this summer, I can sit back and watch the tens of dollars roll in, 1, 2, 10, as I sit on the beach. And I don't actually have to physically make the product. I can just sell it through Etsy. So this isn't everything I'm doing, but this is my short-term plan. It's enough to get me moving forward. Finish the Pilates work, take that monkey off my back, then no more contractor work after that. Start selling my unused gear, empty that 1 can of garbage a day, launch the coaster site, the bulkslatecoasters.com, create a few digital products, get them up and listed. So this all needs to happen April timeframe. And that'll give me the month of May to just purely make stuff, because that's what I want to do. That's what I want to make some things that I'm going to bring as gifts to friends in Turkey. And so when I come back, the ultimate goal is leaving things when I leave here, leave the workshop in May, come back in July and enter my studio. That's a timeline I think I can work with, and it's going to keep me moving forward, just the few things on that list. And part of this is just giving myself a little grace. I'm not behind. I work at my own pace. My pace is slow. I think anyone who's known me or hired me for things knows this about me, that I operate on will time, and it doesn't always jive with everyone else's timetable, but it's the one I work at best. That's a slow burn, but it works for me. So I get frustrated sometimes with myself of not getting the things done, or I don't sleep as much as I should, and that's something I want to prioritize as well. But I just feel like I need to get these things done. I think more than anything, I'm going to give myself a little bit more grace in not getting everything done, allowing myself to go to bed earlier, leave things for tomorrow. They'll be fine. There's very few things that have tragic consequences if they don't get done immediately. Very few things in my life like that. So I just need to recognize that, give myself some grace. You should too. I think that's the main point I want to make. There is a lot of overlap between what I do, what I think about, who I am. Oh, we do have a viewer. And viewer, there's overlap with you as well. You may be a veteran, you may be a maker, you may be a husband, wife, son, daughter, grandparent. Lots of different roles that you fill, lots of different aspirations that you have. And so we may have some common ground of things to talk about. You may feel overwhelmed by some things, and I would love to talk to you about that as well. I've got degrees in psychology and counseling, but I'm not a licensed counselor, so I'll throw that disclaimer now. But I think just as friends and veterans, there's enough common ground we can have to talk about things and talk about our hopes and fears and discuss those things. All right. Yeah, I've just been trying to do too many things at once, and I feel better right now. I'm just talking to nobody about this, and I hope you can take a little morsel from all this as well. And I think that's where we're going to leave it today. This whole orbit model, there can be only one sun, and I finally have a good grip on what mine is. And that's me. Right? So this is ValorCraft Workshop. This is ValorCraft Workshop. This is ValorCraft Workshop. Head, hands, and heart. That's the work I do here. That's the framework I operate in. And I will talk to you next week.